A tangled web, but where's the Trump-Russia scandal headed? Can the president contain the damage? Smart money, with most purchases now made by card. Are we heading to a cashless society? And eye on the ball, we preview the Scottish Open golf tournament. Donald Trump has sprung to the defence of his son amid the controversy over his meeting with a Russian lawyer during last year's presidential race. The leader of the United States claimed on Twitter that it was the greatest witch hunt in political history. Here's Scotland Tonight's James Chain.
Developing news tonight, bombshell Russia emails.
The sound of Russia-related scandal has been crashing across American airwaves yet again. But for once, it's Donald Trump Jr. who's the centre of attention.
Don Jr., good to see you. Welcome back. Here.
It's around 30 hours since the president's son released emails between himself and a publicist setting up a meeting with a Russian lawyer during the presidential campaign. The emails said the lawyer would pass on official documents that would damage Hillary Clinton and help his father's bid to win the White House.
In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little differently. Again, this is before the Russia mania. This is before they were building it up in the press.
He chose a Trump-supporting news anchor for the interview on Fox, and the president himself leapt to his son's defence, tweeting shortly afterwards that this was the greatest witch hunt in political history. But his opponents smell blood. Watching and waiting for the investigation into Russian interference, they're asking why Trump Jr. didn't pick up the phone to the FBI. Collusion is the key word. Was this working with a foreign power to influence an election, or just what they call opposition research? 6 months into the Trump presidency, these are critical questions.
So how might this whole affair play out? We sought the views of the Washington-based political commentator Jon Chrostopher Bua and Sohrab Ahmari, a senior writer for Commentary magazine. Jon Chrostopher, Donald Trump has jumped to the defence of his son today. You wouldn't expect anything less, but how much trouble are the two of them in?
Well, I think, as you know, with the Romanovs in Imperial Russia, they had a propensity toward a genetic propensity toward hemophilia. It seems that the Trumps have a genetic propensity towards amnesia. None of them can tell the truth, or at least remember anything that they've actually done. And I think they're in big trouble. And I think this White House, where I'm there most days for briefings, although they've shut the camera down, is in big trouble.
Sohrab, is Trump going to be able to contain this email scandal?
Well, we'll have to see. I think that there is a tendency to apply this term collusion a little too broadly. There's no law against so-called collusion on the books in the U.S., but there are laws, for example, against obstruction of justice. There's a law against receiving anything of value from a foreign entity in relation to an election. There is laws against, obviously, espionage and treason. I'm not saying that the Trumps are guilty of any of those, but these various emails and the drip, drip, drip of leaks is building up, I guess, a set of questions that Robert Mueller, the special investigator, will have to dig through. So far, even very liberal legal commentators like the New Yorker's Jeffrey Toobin will say, in and of itself, you don't see a crime in these emails between Don Jr. And these various Kremlin-connected characters. But again, it raises questions, and I think it will paralyze this administration unless the president can come clean and act decisively and really learn to govern.
Jon Chrostopher, do you think the emails amount to a smoking gun?
Well, I think when you know, the Republicans and the White House, you love to use the word leak. They say everyone is leaking. This one is Comey leak. This one, it's actually Sonny Boy who actually sent those emails out last night because he knew the New York Times had them and he wanted to kind of jump ahead of the game. Those aren't leaks. Those are, in fact, tweets that he had sent out. A very, very compromising position. He invited 2 other individuals to a very compromising meeting, and it seems he didn't remember it until yesterday. So I think that Donald Trump and his entire family will be under the scrutiny more than ever. And I understand, as my colleague there said, Mr. Mueller, who's the special counsel, will have free rein, and I hear he's putting quite a team together.
Sohrab, do you think Donald Jr. didn't have any choice but to release these emails?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, the leaks were to the New York Times. Once when Don found out that the New York Times has the emails, he tried to preempt it by releasing it to whatever public relations effect or not. But no, obviously, I mean, this is an administration. I don't mean leaks by people in the permanent bureaucracy against the Trumps. I think they're leaking against themselves as well. So this is part of the character of dysfunction in this administration. And what you're seeing is a dissipation of executive energy. I feel bad for Trump's supporters because they really elected him expecting him to get certain things done. But he's, within his first year, he's dogged by scandal, by his own constant tweeting about petty personal matters that diminish his office, and then you have all this, potential smoking guns. It's very sad.
Jon Chrostopher, what are Trump supporters making of all this?
Well, I mean, the GOP, the hard rock, the Republicans who are not Trump. Trump was not really a Republican. He kind of absconded with this, with the Republican Party. And what they are thinking is and I think if you remember, we go back into history, and Barry Goldwater and Hugh Scott and another senator from Arizona, John Rhodes, visited Richard Nixon on the 7th of August and said basically, and I can't repeat what Barry Goldwater supposedly had said, but he said something like, "Dick, you better get out of this bleeping White House soon." And 2 days later, actually a day later, Richard Nixon resigned and Gerald Ford was the president of the United States 2 days after. When the GOP says enough is enough, we're not getting health care, we're not getting our wall, we're not getting any kind of fiscal work and any kind of, you're taking off to Paris in the middle of all of this? My God, they are not happy. And when they decide to perhaps do that Barry Goldwater trip over to the Oval Office, then we'll see what happens.
Sohrab, could the role of the Republican Party be crucial here in deciding Donald Trump's fate?
Yeah, obviously, and I think John's right that for lots of Republican and center-right people, myself included, Trump was the last choice for president, for Republican nominee. So you're right. I mean, I think that the Republicans will be looking at this, but I think that there's caution that the Democrats should have, which is, if they expect a dramatic downfall, it may or may not come, but they need to learn to win elections. And that the attempt to delegitimize him, which may or may not be, again, there may be something there, and he'll have his downfall. But the Democratic Party has its own problems, and people will also remember, for example, that the Democrats, under the Obama administration, policy-wise, were really soft on Russia, and it was the Republicans who were pushing the President Obama at the time to get tough. So if there's too much cynicism, a sense that emerges that some of this stuff is an attempt to delegitimize him unfairly when the policy approach to Russia looks different, I think that could cause trouble for Democrats as well.
In a sentence, JC, do you think Trump will serve out his full term? In a sentence.
I just want to say that Democrats really have to show some strength and courage and put up a decent candidate. And remember, we don't have Gerald Ford, we have Pence. Okay. If in fact Trump is gone, he may be, we shall see. He's his own worst enemy, and I wish him luck. He is my president. Okay,
Sohrab, how long do you think he'll last?
I won't predict anything. I will just say that it's looking really bad right now.
Okay,
but it's looked bad for him for a while, so who knows?
We'll wait and see. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you.